Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. I'm Maria Casillas, joined by Cody Sizemore, and we are here for another incredible episode to share as much wisdom and knowledge as we have to offer today. Before we get started, though, I just wanted to say thank you to each of you who are listening. If you are every weeker, we really appreciate you, especially, I don't know if you know, but we don't get paid to do this. And that's okay with us. We're totally fine with that. But like Cody has mentioned before, if you weren't tuning in, then we would have no reason to do this. Although I do enjoy chatting with you, Cody, we'd probably find other ways to make that happen. So thank you to each of you who tunes in today. We look forward to seeing you in all of our future episodes as well. Okay, Cody. So I'm actually going to have you tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. So this is something I've been doing for a while, and I know that there's a lot of people that have questions around this, and it can actually be a little bit intimidating to do as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But that is the concept of running paid ads to help, get the word out about who you are and what you do and how you can help people. So that's what we're going to be kind of talking about today.
Okay, cool. And we're going to talk about pros and cons of that?
Pros and cons, yeah. But I also think that even just kind of getting into a little bit of the layers of what it looks like and what you might be wanting to make sure you have in place for it in order to ensure that you have success with it and that it's actually paying, you have a good ROI on it and stuff like that.
Okay.
So stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. Very good. I'm excited to learn right along with our listeners today.
Yeah, for sure. So I will lead off with saying this. You should only consider doing paid advertisement if you first feel really confident about your abilities to do organic advertising. Because honestly, you can't expect to not be very good at the free advertising side of things and then have, put money into it and expect it to work out in your favor kind of thing,
Yeah. I love that preface.
Yeah. So my first suggestion is don't just listen to this episode and think, wow, this all sounds great. I'm going to start doing paid ads. If you haven't first gotten good results or you've been consistent or you've kind of honed your craft around the organic side of things, because that's kind of like the training ground, I guess you could say. And once you feel like you are confident with that and you're getting good results with it, then it might make sense to then transition into investing into some money into your own paid advertisements as well. So First want to say that.
Okay. So we're talking right now to the people who have done all of that or who are trying to prepare later on for being able to use this.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And, it's intimidating to do these things because if you were to do, let's just say $30 a day or something like that, into paid advertising, you do that for a month. I mean, you're talking close to $1,000 a month that you're putting into paid advertising. And, if you're doing that, you want to make sure that they work and that, you get not only calls booked for consultations, but then you also get, new clients from it too. So this is also something where it's if you're going to do this, make sure that your consultation process is also pretty fine-tuned. Otherwise, you'll just be throwing money out the window.
Right. Know that your conversion rate is pretty decent.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be every single client that you talk to that, they become a client, but at least that you have a decent close rate, would be good. But I've been doing the advertising for, I think about 2 years now. I've been doing it. And, not going to lie to you, stepping into this, it was a completely unknown kind of field for me. And I had to do a lot of learning. So I even hired someone to help me with this. And I looked up a ton of stuff on YouTube and all these different types of things to really fine tune my ideal audience and make sure that the click through rates were good and all that kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of like back end learning that you're going to have to do. But since I've been doing this, I would say that like, especially more recently, the majority of my clients actually come from paid advertisements now, which is really cool because I get an awesome return on investment from this kind of thing. And it's also really cool because like I'm reaching people from all across the nation that would have never have known who I am by simply just doing like my organic marketing kind of stuff, or at least maybe not the amount of people kind of thing. Right. So it's really good to kind of just like reach those quote unquote cold audiences and then turn them into warm audiences, which then have the ability to turn into a hot audience from there. But the whole process of doing it is you're going to want to make sure that you have your advertisement, so the thing that they see as they're scrolling, it's something that I would call be like a thumb stopper, which basically means like it has a good image, so whether it be a photo or like a quick video or whatever it might be, but it has a good piece of content that is engaging, it's bright, it catches people's attention, but then also the copy or the text that goes with the post is also a thumb stopper as well, in the sense that it has a hook at the beginning, you know, and then it goes into a little bit more detail as far as like what you're doing and what you're offering and all that kinds of stuff. So that's number one. But one thing that you're going to want to have is you don't want to just run ads for people to book a call with you, because if you do that, they're not going to book a call with you, and your ads it's just going to be a waste of money. Like you need to give them some form of value first for free kind of thing. And that could be a number of things. But one thing that I do, and it's something that I've seen really help, really be good thing for like the coaching industry in general, like across all different, you know, sub genres, I guess you could call it, of coaching, is doing like a free webinar, you know, so something that's like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes. I wouldn't do any longer than that, but just something to where like you can give them some value. So for example, my webinar, it's titled Master Your Money, 5 simple shifts to rapidly eliminate debt and amplify your wealth kind of thing. And in that webinar, I go over 5 different areas or 5 different shifts that help people to accomplish those things. And I give them enough value to where they get something out of it, but I don't give them so much value to where they get everything that they want or need from it kind of thing. It's designed to give them just enough to where at the end of the webinar, where there's a call to action to book a free call or a free consultation, that they feel like they want to get that extra value from it. Thus, they then book a call kind of thing, right? So that's kind of the whole process. Like you'll want to make sure that you have something that catches people's attention. You want to make sure that it's a thumb stopper, and you want to give them some form of like free value in the form of maybe a webinar. It might be a tool. It might be a resource, whatever it might be kind of thing. And then of course you want to make sure there's a call to action to book a consultation with you. So before I go any further, any sort of questions or feedback on that, Maria? Because I don't want to just keep rambling. I tend to do that sometimes.
No, you're doing just fine. No, I mean, you laid it out really nicely, and nothing's jumping out as being really odd or weird for me. So no, I think that's actually really good. I guess one point of clarification would be when you're doing your thumb stopper and or your webinar, are you paying for them to click on those different things? And maybe that's something that you set up ahead of time. I really am completely ignorant when it comes to some of this stuff. Because in my own stuff, I do everything organically. And then anything that is through New Money Habits, I actually don't have my hands in. So I really don't know. And I'm sure some of our listeners also don't know. And that's why it's intimidating for them to even jump into this. So maybe that would be the only question I have is, and maybe you'll get to that later, is how it works with the payment structure. But do they pay for them? Do you pay for them to click through your thumb stopper and your webinar, etc.?
So you pay for them to see the advertisement.
Okay.
So as you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever it might be, you're going to get hit with an advertisement, right?
Of course.
that's what you pay for, is for them to just see it, kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's up to you to make sure that when they do see it, that it's something that catches their attention enough for them to then click that thing, which then redirects them to an outside site off of the social media platform that you're on, that houses your sign up link, and then then it redirects to access to the webinar, and so on and so forth.
Okay. I did know that you pay to have them see it, but what I wasn't sure of is do you pay more to have them click through? But it sounds like no, you're going to pay the same amount whether they see it and click through or just see it and scroll past, which is why it's so important to have that thumb stopper.
Correct. Yep. Okay. Exactly.
You may now take the opportunity to ramble again.
Okay, cool. So, there's a few things in here that I want to make sure don't go overlooked, because I made a shift probably about 8 months ago or so, and this one shift changed everything for me.
Yes,
it became so much better. So what I was doing before, the process of people clicking on that advertisement, they get redirected to a sign up page, which basically says like, hey, if you want access to this, put in your name and email, and then you'll get access to it, kind of thing, right? And by doing that, when they do that, it then, you can set up an automation to where they can, automatically be added to your CRM or your email list. So you have their name, you have their email, and you have what they signed up for as well. So they're now a part of your network, kind of thing, automatically, right?
Yep.
And I did that for like the first year or so. And, with that, you basically leave it up to them watching the webinar, them clicking book a call at the end of the webinar, and then you have a few kind of like automated emails that go out after they sign up for like the replay of it, doubling down on that call to action to book a call, stuff like that. But if they still don't do it after that, then they just kind of sit in your email list, and you kind of just start to nurture them over time, kind of thing. But they never actually book a call, right? And, I saw some success with that for a while. And then there was a period of time where, for whatever reason, I don't know exactly what it was, the number of people who booked calls with me from the webinar itself started to drop consistently. I still had a number of people signing up for it, but as far as people actually booking calls for it goes, that started to drop at a pretty alarming rate, to where I actually reached out to Facebook and I was like, what is going on here, kind of thing. And I talked to someone in like a Facebook ads Facebook group kind of thing, made a post about what was kind of going on, and they made the suggestion that all I should really do is just in my sign up link to ask for their name and their email, but then also ask for their phone number.
How did I know? I'm not even intuitive with this, and yet I knew that that's where that was going.
Yep. So with that, you then have their phone number, and then you have the opportunity to reach out to them directly via text, via voice message, maybe even call them, like whatever it might be. You can do that because they willingly gave that to you. You make the name and email required, but you make the phone number optional. And most people, they'll do like the autofill kind of thing, and it will just fill it by itself. But it was optional, so you're giving me permission to reach out to you in that kind of way, kind of thing, right? And that's what I found has been really good, because like sometimes, and what I found actually is very common, is that people will sign up for it, they'll start to watch it, and then something happens in their life or in their day-to-day to where they have to stop watching it, and they have to take care of the kid, or they get home from work and they have to cook dinner or whatever it might be, and then they never end up finishing it. So they never actually get to that part with the call to action in the webinar itself. But simply by like reaching out to them and just saying, hey so-and-ho, or so-and-ho, hey so-and-so, this is Cody with Sizemore Financial Coaching. I saw you signed up for this webinar yesterday. Was that right? they'll respond to you and they'll say, yeah, I did do that. And you'll go, okay, great. I just want to make sure you got everything okay, that you're able to watch everything. And if so, I hope that you got some good value from it. I'm just curious, what made you want to sign up for this webinar in the first place? And then they'll open up and they'll say, well, I never actually got the chance to finish it. And in that case, you can send them a direct link to it. And they're very appreciative of that. Or they did finish it and they say, yeah, well, I wanted to sign up for this because I'm trying to figure out how to pay off all my damn debt, kind of thing. And you're like, and then, so you started the conversation, right? And then you have that whole, conversation thing that we talked about in the past in this podcast about just nurturing that relationship and getting it one step closer to eventually inviting them onto a call. So start asking them like, well, what's going on? Like, do you mind filling me in a little bit about what you have going on? Like what kind of debt do you have? How much? What do the payments look like? What's your income look like? Stuff like that. And a lot of people will be happy to give you that information. And then at one point you'll feel comfortable saying, hey, like, this is all great to see. And on my end, with the information you have given me, it feels like you could work yourself out of this in a decent amount of time, but I really like to get a better understanding on this. So maybe we can hop on a phone call. Would you be open for that kind of thing? And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. And if they say yes, you send them your scheduling link and boom, there's a consultation kind of thing. So you're getting it on multiple levels. You have the webinar with them having the opportunity to just book a call directly if they watch the whole thing and finish it. You have the follow-up emails with like, the call to action to do that too. But then you're also sending them text messages as well. And that's the most direct way of communicating with them. And that's what I have found has been like the most efficient way to get the return on investment of your paid ads. Now it's a little bit of extra work because you need to spend time, talking to these people and messaging these people. But man, oh man, is it worth it? Right. It's way more worth it if you're going to be putting $1,000 a month into ads, and you get a client or two a week from this kind of thing.
Right? Yeah, yeah, and like you said, it's more work. But if you're going to pay for it anyway, then you might as well put in the extra effort, because when you pay for it, it's all of that's automated. It's just, it's your money going out. But you're wanting to be able to meet with these people anyway. And if your numbers dropped before, then you had extra time because you weren't doing the consultations with them. Right. So you could use your time during the consultations to be texting and or talking back and forth with these individuals. So yeah, I'm not surprised that was the game changer for you. That's really great. So you mentioned it was a game changer. How much, you said it was dropping at an alarming rate. Now, as people are clicking through, what would you say? Okay, so let's stop, rewind and say, are they still dropping at an alarming rate from the webinar and you're actually making up for that through the text messages? Or are they also clicking through the webinar now, just out of curiosity?
It's a mix of both. Okay. It's a mix of both. Yeah. But I will tell you that for every, let's say for every 10 consultations that I get booked from some way, shape, or form from the advertisements, I would say that maybe 3 of them are from the webinar itself. And the other 7 are from the text messages.
Well, okay. That's a pretty big percentage being from text messages.
Yeah.
All right. So this is something. Now, granted, we mentioned at the top of the show that this is not something that somebody who hasn't tried organic marketing should try right now. But if somebody is either really already ready to start or they're already doing this, they should absolutely add this immediately. Add the whole phone number option immediately to their process.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it because it was such a big change for me.
Okay. And then if you're going to do that, you also want to have laid out what your follow-up process is going to look like. I know you mentioned, Cody, that sometimes texting messages can take a little bit longer and that kind of stuff. It's not as automated, and I totally understand that. But back in my old days with different type of sales, I would use text message a lot, and it was actually before they had like your ability to do, like they have programs now that you can automate text messages just like you can email. But you don't have that, obviously. And I didn't have that even available back then. Anyway, what I did was I had like a bank of specifically written notes that were ready to be just slightly tweaked and then sent out.
Yep.
And that saved a ton of time in terms of how much we were going to be typing out. So that is something that people can do now. You've got a notes on your phone. Just, open up a file, if you will, and have some stuff that's already put together.
Yep.
It says everything except, hey, so-and-ho.
Yes.
But it has a spot for you to say their actual name, and then, you've written in a lot of the stuff already. That does save a ton of time. So,
yeah, and that's exactly what I do. You can do automated text, but to be completely honest with you, having it come from you organically goes so much further.
I agree with that.
Again, it's a little bit more work, but I've even had so I have like a series of like 3 or 4 kind of like follow-up texts if they don't respond to the first one, because there's people who don't respond to any kind
of course
thing,
right. Mm-hmm.
And after the second or third one, I've had people respond simply just stop, because they think that it's an automated one.
Yeah.
And what I love doing in those regards is I say, oh, this isn't an automated text message. This is actually me. And sometimes I'll even shoot them a voice message kind of thing. And I'll just say, I just want to make sure you got everything okay. And, I also want to support you more too. If there's anything else that I can send over to you or, give you a resource, whatever, I'd be happy to do that. And a lot of times when I do that, they'll respond back and they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was an automated thing. Yeah, sure. I'd love that. Thank you. So just like the fact that you're putting a little bit of extra time and energy into that, it goes a long way kind of thing, and with that, I do have banks for those follow-up messages and stuff like that. I don't type the same thing out every single time. I definitely use copy and paste. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's just a good use of your time and resources for sure. But it still doesn't take away from that personalized feeling, because even though it's something you've used often, it's not automated. And so they're able to know, okay, and this person actually took the time to, even if it is just copy and paste, they took the time to do that specifically to me. So,
Yep, exactly.
All right.
So, long story short, if you haven't tried doing paid advertisements and you've been thinking about it for a while, I know we didn't go into the finer details of everything, but I think that we gave like a 30,000 foot view of maybe like the most important pillars of it, the most important pieces to make sure you get right. So give it a shot. And, my big thing is like, whether it be organic advertising, whether it be paid advertising, it's not going to ever be a passive, kick your feet up and wait for the calls to come in kind of thing. There might be some elements to that in some ways, but with anything in life, if you really want it, you got to go after it, so keep that in mind and let us know how it goes. You can connect with us in our Facebook group, which is the Financial Coaches Podcast, the Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits. And if you have more questions about the finer details of Facebook advertising, feel free to make a post in there, and I'll make sure that I get back to you, whether it be on the comment thread or even we can hop on a phone call or message directly. So
yeah, that's a very generous offer. I was going to offer it for you. I'm glad you did it yourself.
Thanks, Maria.
Oh, goodness. As always, thank you for sharing your wisdom here. We appreciate it. I and the listeners equally, I'm sure. So
absolutely.
Thank you for that. All right, you guys, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. We look forward to seeing you again in another week. Till then, have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.